8:03 Central African Time. Hello, Sunny Bonani. Welcome to the 11th race of this BrakeAway Racing League All-Star Season. 12 contenders, hopefully soon to be 14, with the likes of Man Ray and Tindo set to join the lobby. 18 minutes of qualifying around the Hugaroring. It is the 11th race of the season. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making BrakeAway Racing League your league of choice this evening. Please remember to like the stream and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. We have just about 17 and a half minutes to see what exactly these contenders will have cooked up. And with the likes of Inquali joining the fray, joining the lobby, joining the fight, we will hopefully be in for some beautifully entertaining racing out here at the Hugaroring. Marshy Kaboza, the first of some of our contenders to come out and make their presence felt. Kaboza, first out onto the circuit, followed, of course, by Marshy and Billy Hendricks, and now we have a whole stream of drivers making their way out towards the Hugaroring. Let's take a quick look at how the championship stands. With this being the 11th race of the season, it is Mex who is in prime position as far as the possible championship is concerned. Mex has 171 points, leading the standings. Duke, not too far behind, 150 points for the McLaren Superstar. Sage Figure of Speech has put together one of the most consistent seasons we have ever seen. They have amassed 113 points. Sage Fig is third in the standings. Loveness is fourth on 86 points, as is Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator, possibly Debo Cayman, also on 86 points. Caboza and Tiago Maestro are level, each on 77 points. Then we have Donovan Laka occupying 8th spot with 73 points. Zotal is 9th on 66 points. Billy Hendricks is 10th on 58 points. And thereafter we have Mfundo in 11th, Man Ray is 12th, Marshy 13th, Fente 14th, the neutral 86er and Crowley making up P15 to 17, and then Sir Lancelot is 18th, Tindo is 19th on just a single championship point since the start of the season, San Limazanthi on 0 points. Now, let's pay close attention to Caboza's Sector 1, 27.159, I believe that was, as Caboza tackles the longer right-hander, will now slam the brakes after the 50-meter marker, rise a little curve through that chicane, trying to carry as much speed as possible through this oh-so-tricky circuit. Unforgiving if you take too much curb. Of course, some of the walls are oh-so treacherous, oh-so close, and possibly so inviting if you were too liberal with the amount of speed you carry. 54.164 for Caboza through the middle sector. It is purple, of course, Caboza being the first to set a representative lap. Behind Caboza is the likes of Marshy, and then the rest of the field. I believe Billy Hendricks is also following, not too far behind Caboza. This is the challenger. It is Caboza, 15.735. Where is Marshy? Soon to come across the line. The answer is invalidated. Billy Hendricks should be coming through soon across the line. It's a 15.375. So daylight between Billy Hendricks and the likes of Caboza. We should have a hash crossing the line, seemingly to begin another push lap. It is Zotal, I beg your pardon, 15.317, marginally close to the time that Billy Hendricks had set. Tiago crossed the line for their time of a 116.138. Work to do for the McLaren Superstar. The times are now starting to trickle in. Mex, who is in firm control and command of this championship, crosses the line for the third quickest time thus far, 15.487. Fente has joined the fray, 1 minute 16.267 as far as they're concerned. And look at that, Sage Figure of Speech crosses the line for the quickest time of the day with 13 minutes and 44 odd seconds to go. Sage Fig lays down the gauntlet with a 1 minute 15.308. The times are starting to trickle in as everyone makes their presence felt. And Fundo as across the line for the fifth best time of the day, 1:15.682. Man Ray also sharing their experience with that 1 minute 15.625. So they're starting to trickle in. Here are the times. Caboza was one of the first out on track. It seems like he has taken a second bite of the cherry. Before we catch back up with them to see how they will fare, Billy Hendricks has made their way back into the pit. Duke and Debo Crocodile are on their out laps. And who has also joined the fray here. Marshy has just crossed the line, 117.154. Work to do there for Marshy. And Qualley crosses the line with that 17.779. Has been attending races consistently, hasn't Qualley? And when the occasion calls for it, when the situation presents itself, has not been shy of finding themselves in the points. So, and Qualley currently 11th quickest time of the day. And the times are slowly but surely trickling in here. Sage Fig from Zoltal, from Billy Hendricks are your current top three, all of whom are back in the pits. Duke is, of course, a driver who's been making Mex's life a living hell. Outbrakes himself a little bit on the entry towards that chicane, but still looking to be carrying a lot of speed through this twisty circuit. Very narrow at a lot of points. The overtaking is not exactly the easiest fare. 53.282 middle sector is nothing to be scoffed at. We're going to look at a time that will definitely be challenging the top runners over here. Tindo, the first casualty of the qualifying session, not able to do any better than that 1 minute 18.452. Tindo is out. Tindo will be hoping that, the rest of the challengers will not be challenging him too much. Here comes Duke across the line. The first two breach that 1 minute 14 second barrier. 114.824 is a sensational effort by the McLaren superstar. On board we go now with Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator, possibly Debo Cayman. Now competing in this middle sector of the track. A little bit of tire squeaks there before coming through the chicane. Rides the curves as you are wont to do on a circuit like this. Very, very narrow, very treacherous if you take too much of the curves, but not Debo Crocodile, not the distant cousin of Debo Alligator. Now completing the middle sector with a 53.932, which must be said is nothing to be scoffed at. Perhaps challenging the likes of Sage Fig, Zoltal, and Mex, and the upper echelons of this field. Oh no, a little bit of oversteer there through the penultimate corner will cost Debo a precious few tenths of a second. And here he comes now towards the line. Will it be competitive? Sixth best time of the day that Debo has just put in. The 86er has joined the fray, currently still in the pits as we now hop on over to the veteran Loveness, Tato, who's been nothing sort of sensational in races past, in seasons past, but will he make it a sensational Sector 2 and Sector 3? Carrying so much speed and is, of course, very comfortable through the curves. 53.626. Once again, nothing to be scoffed at. We saw Debo Crocodile come unstuck at this penultimate corner. It looks like Loveness's steering angles are not too treacherous now. It's going to be a decent effort if he can nail this final corner. Third gear, fourth gear, and pedal to the metal for Loveness towards the line. It's a 15.026, the third quickest time of the day. Loveness, with all that experience, coming in clutch. Beautifully done there for the highly, highly experienced campaigner. The Donathon Laka is currently on their outlap, so we will instead hop on over to the Haas of the hands of Zoltal. Now coming through, that was turn 3, rides the curve just a little bit, needs to nail the braking point. Zoltal has gained 4.3 tenths of a second come the end of Sector 1. That is, of course, relative to their best effort of the day. 9.5 minutes of this session to go. What can Zoltal do for Team Haas? Their teammate Marshy down in P13. Work to do there. Zoltal is going to look to fly that flag as high as they possibly can, waving the white flag, but in no way surrendering. It's Zoltal for Haas. Now has found even more of a margin through the middle sector with a total gain relative to his best time of about 4.6 tenths of a second. Zoltal looking very, very good through the penultimate corner and not hacking away at the steering wheel as we've seen some other drivers do. Here he comes now towards the line. We'll open up that DRS to cross the line. He was fifth. He is now first with 8.5 minutes of this session to go. It's the fastest time of the day from Zoltal. Beautifully done for the experienced campaigner. Billy Hendricks is also here to stake their claim on a sensational marker. 14.998. As I say that, it's Thiago across the line to pip Zoltal with 8.5 minutes of the session to go. Some of the drivers keep on dipping in and out of this lobby, but Thiago is here to make their presence felt, to possibly make it a McLaren front row. But Zoltal will not make life easy for any of those campaigners. Where is Enfundo? The answer is in that first sector. looking to find as much of a margin as they possibly can. Now we're going to watch the Aston Martin Superstar towards the end of this first sector. What'll it be? The answer is not very quick. He's down by more than a second. So Enfundo perhaps giving it another bite of the cherry, another go. Meanwhile, in the middle sector, it's Fence 360. 7 minutes, 45 seconds of the session to go. Trying not to outbreak themselves into this chicane, one of the slower corners of the track. Oh, he goes straight into the back of the Ferrari, and the wing is gone. The lap is absolutely totaled, and Fence tried to avoid the slow-moving Ferrari, which is completely off track, but sadly for the Red Bull prospect, it was not enough. Went careening into the back of that Ferrari. Was that Billy Hendricks? Was that Sid's figure of speech? Yeah, it was Sid's figure of speech. As Enfundo says, let's go Enfundo in the comments section. Enfundo cheering on Enfundo. Let's see now. It seems Man Ray is not quite on a push lap. Oh, well, if they were, they're down by about a second. So we'll hop on over instead to Billy Hendricks, who, having taken so much damage, is now back in the pits. Here comes Duke now. He was third. He is back up to P1. Duke makes it a McLaren 1-2 with about 6.5 minutes of this session to go. 14.439 versus Thiago's 14.818 is nothing to be scoffed at. We have 4 contenders, 4 drivers who have breached that 1 minute 14 second barrier. And I'll tell you what, that is absolutely sensational stuff. Duke, once again, living up to his namesake, he is absolutely in firm control, command of this circuit. What about in Crowley now? Currently down in P15, Tindo, sadly, will take no further part, having crashed out of his quality session. And as we come on board with Enquali, coming a little bit unstuck, riding the curb there and having to catch the car. And it seems they might just have abandoned that push lap. Now looking to conclude the middle sector. Yeah, down by more, to almost 2 seconds. And Quali with a lot of work to do. Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator, has just begun their second push lap attempt. What'll it be? Well, the best that they could do was that P8 15.516 work to do. Oh, for the talented Debo, who had to catch the car there, having been dragged by the lateral G-forces off the racing line. Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator, sadly abandoning that push lap. Work to do for Debo. Meanwhile, Sid's figure of speech, the picture of consistency in the scorching hot red Ferrari, is now coming towards the line. What'll it be for Stitch Big? It's back up to the top 3. 114.615 is beautifully done by the Ferrari Superstar. Meanwhile, Mex had shoved Thiago Maestro down the pecking order to come in with the second quickest time of the day. Look at those margins. 14.439 versus that 14.529 is very, very close between our 2 championship contenders. But as I say that, Loveness makes their presence felt, showing all the experience to put in the second quickest time of the day thus far. 14.503 means the Aston Martin Superstar is tucked snugly between the fast-moving Duke and the challenger, that be Moteo Mekwa, a.k.a. Mex, in that P3 spot. It's Duke from Loveness from Mex. Those are your top 3 with 4.5 minutes of the session to go. Sage figure of speech is out on track. They had the 4th quickest time of the day thus far. Thiago lit up the timing towers earlier on. They're currently in that P4 spot. Is that a fast-moving Caboza trying to take advantage of that Ferrari, which eventually moved out of the way? The answer is yes, it's Caboza now looking to complete their second or third bite of the cherry. Caboza, highly experienced, all the way down in P11 for now. What'll it be? The answer is still P11. He found more than a tenth of a second with improvement, did Caboza, but it is not enough to see him possibly leapfrog some of the other contenders that we have seen here today. And Fundo is still huffing and puffing and giving it an almighty push. Found about 2,000ths of a second come the end of that first sector. Work to do for Enfundo with about 3.5 minutes of the session to go. As we say that, the middle sector sees Enfundo find more than a tenth of a second to make it a total gain of about 2.3 tenths of a second relative to their best time thus far of a 115.542. This is a fresh set of soft tires for Enfundo, trying to take a little bit of a leap. He was P10, comes across the line, and he jumps up 2 places for that 15.106. All of our top 6 contenders currently in the pits. before giving it another push, another go. This is Billy Hendricks riding a lot of the curve here. Billy and Sage Figure of Speech have been an absolutely sensational pairing for Ferrari this year. Both of them taking part in pretty much all of the races, and both of them really the picture of consistency as far as their performances are concerned. Billy was 7th, comes across the line to be now P4 and pips their teammate to make it a McLaren 4-5. So Billy Hendricks occupying currently that 2nd row of the grid, and Sage Figure of Speech in P5 occupying that 3rd row. Provisionally, what to do for Sage Figure of Speech. Man Ray, of course, a driver who had a lot of fun in circuits gone by. Had a lot of fun in the Silverstone with Did Man Ray. Was looking quite racy, very, very quick. Let's see now what they can do. At the end of the first sector, Man Ray is down, so work to do through sectors 2 and 3 is down by about 2/100ths of a second. A little bit not quite on the apex there through the beginning of the chicane there for Man Ray. Goes a little bit off the track, almost completely off the track, and he goes spinning through some of the faster corners. Plumes of tire smoke being kicked up by Man Ray, and that is the lap absolutely gone. Man Ray's prospects are no more as far as that lap is concerned. Sigfig came back into the pit, so let's back up instead with Thiago Maestro, who lit up the timing towers earlier on in this session. And with just a minute and a half of this qualifying session to go, as you can see on your timing tower, Duke, Loveness, Mex, Sage Figure of Speech, Zotal are on their out laps, soon to begin their final push towards contending for pole position. Can it be done? Well, we'll catch up to see how Thiago himself fares as he concludes that first sector, finding an improvement of about half a tenth, about 500th of a second. Heard a little bit of a tire squeak there as he made his way through some of the faster right-hander now into the chicane, rides the curb, hoping not to get knocked offline. It's still carrying as much speed as he possibly can. Needs to nail the entry into these fast corners as best as he possibly can. It's Thiago Maestro looking to find a bit of a margin. Now concluding the middle sector. He's found about 2.3 of a second. Thiago carrying speed through the right-hander. Thiago looking to nail this long left-hander, the penultimate corner. It's a bit of a hack at the steering wheel for Thiago Maestro. Work to do here. How much time will that hack at the steering wheel cost him as he now points the car straight down towards the line? He was P6 and he goes up just one spot, makes it a P5 provisionally. With a lot of work to do, of course. So many of these contenders yet to come across the line. Zotal had a huge moment through the right-hander, and that is that. Zotal's lap is absolutely totaled. Meanwhile, it looks like the 86er goes careening past Zotal, whose huge mistake means he will hope that it stays P7. The 86er has had not much running here. It's going to be a one-shot qualifying for the 86er. Coming towards the line, not going to be among the quickest, 115, 116, up to P14 for the 86er. So sadly for them, not going to be enough. That is Marshy, who is P15. One of the Ferraris is due to cross the line. It was Billy Hendricks who went 5th quickest, and it seemed that Duke opted to retire in the pits. Where is Mex? He's still so far back. We'll catch up instead with Thiago, who seems to be on an in-lap. So Mex is among the contenders looking to find a semblance of improvement over here. Duke in provisional pole position from Loveness on that front row. Sigfig and Mex make up the second row provisionally. But can Mex find his way into the front row? Can he pip Sigfig of Speech, or Loveness, or Duke if everything goes well? But as I say that, it does not look like that will be the case. So it is Duke Takar in pole position at the Hugaroring in prime seats to make it a memorable, possible lights the flag victory. But time will tell. We do not even know what the weather situation is going to look like in the race itself. Loveness will start in that front row. Sigfig and Mex on the second row. Billy Hendricks and Thiago, P5 and 6 in that third row. Zotal will start alongside Fundo, who is in 8th. Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator, possibly Debo Cayman, will start in 9th. And Man Ray 10th. And Caboza will start 11th alongside Fensei. Donovan Blacka will start 13th. The 86er 14th. Marcy 15th. And Quali 16th. Tindo, sadly, is all the way at the back of the pack. Sir Lancelot is here in the comments section. It's great to have you on board. We've missed you on circuit. And, well, welcome to all of you who've made BrakeAway Racing League your league of choice here tonight. Please remember to like the stream, subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. There you have it, folks. It is oh so close, oh so tight at the sharp end of this qualifying session. Just 6/100ths of a second separating Duke from Loveness, who has been absolutely imperious here tonight. Such figure of speech, not very far behind. One of 7 drivers to breach that 1:14 barrier. Beautifully done by all those contenders. 3 sets of tires used for each of the top 7. Only 2 for Infundo and Devo Crocodile. 4 sets of tires were used by Man Ray, who sadly could only muster that P10 spot. But the race, of course, is a whole different kettle of fish. And let's see what the experienced Man Ray can serve up here. Welcome to the Hugaroring. Welcome to race number 11 of the BrakeAway Racing League All-Star Showcase. The race is up next. Well, here we are, folks. Let's make it interesting, says Thiago Maestro in the comment section. In the cockpit, seemingly, well, the picture of calm, confidence, composure, collected, well, headspace that Thiago seems to be in. Comfortable enough to be in the comment section just before the lights go out. Kid K is also here in the comment section. It's great to have you all on board, folks. Thank you for joining us here, the 11th showpiece event of this BrakeAway Racing League All-Stars season. Let's see how everybody will fare. It is, we will have 35 laps around the Hugaroring. It's a circuit, 4.3 kilometers in length. The distance from the grid to turn 1 is about 618 meters as the lights are about to go out. 5 lights, the only time South Africans look forward to the lights going out. We are racing in Hungary, and would you look at that jump start, sadly, for Nkwali, who will have to serve a drive-through penalty. Here goes Loveness on the attack. Loveness on the inside towards turn number 1, but Duke hangs on the outside, carries speed, they bang wheels, and it seems Loveness will have to be content with that P2 spot that he started in. And it seems like Max has held on position to P4, and Quali was gaining those 11 positions, but of course he'll have to serve that drive-through penalty. Someone's gone off track. It seems like, is it the 86er? No, it's Billy Hendricks, who seemed to have had a huge moment in the midfield, but it looks like everybody in the top 4 managing to keep those positions. Thiago losing, of course, to Nkwali, whose position gain won't exactly count. All things being considered, they're side by side into the chicane. Thiago says, I can't be mired in this midfield battle so earlier on. Thiago trying not to fall too far behind. The top 4 drivers, everybody running oh so close, as Nkwali is going to have to serve that drive-through penalty. One-stop strategy expected to pit around lap 15 or so. And if you're going for a 2-stop, the graphic is, of course, indicating what that would look like. Devo Crocodile is still having not moved a position in that P8 spot. Zotal has gained 1 position. Oh, and Quali is causing all sorts of havoc, having had that huge jump start, and now causing a bit of pandemonium as Duke has crossed the line in the lead of this race. Loveness is still trying to huff and puff and give Duke a whole lot of headaches as we're catching up with that midfield action earlier on. 35 laps around the Hugaroring. What'll it be by the time the pit window comes into play? Initially, though, it is Duke who's trying to keep Loveness at bay, doing a decent job at it, about 7/10 of a second between Duke and Loveness. Each of the top 5 drivers opting for a set of medium compound tires. Zotal down in P6 is on those hards alongside Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator. Speaking of Debo, applying the pressure on the back of that half, Zotal, has gone spinning off the track! Oh, through the slower chicane! Zotal takes too much curve! Zotal goes spinning, and Zotal goes tumbling down the order. Once P6 now is languishing in P13. Oh, Zotal, another unforced error, causing Zotal headaches and pain and anguish, this time in the Hugaroring. Work to do now for Zotal. I'll tell you what, Kaboza will say thank you very much, gaining that position without having to fight Zotal. Evil Crocodile took a wide line trying to keep Kaboza at bay. Kaboza with the grip, Kaboza with the speed, Kaboza with the overtake. Now up to P6 on those mediums. Evil Crocodile seemingly has not got those hard tires into an optimum working window. Kaboza took that position as easy as you like. On board we go now when the fight's at the sharp end of the grid. F125 has been announced. You better hope it's not good, otherwise the King will be making a return. It's the Don Radical making their presence felt in the comment section. On board with Next, who is trying to give Stitch figure of speech all of the headaches. Now through the right-hander they go. Next, of course, trying to make sure that he does not go careening into the back of that. Oh, Ferrari had to catch the car. Did Next coming into the chicane, of course, trying not to make a huge error. But luckily for Mex, he's still within 7/10 of a second. Still within touching distance of the Ferrari ahead. Still within DRS, of course. Still within a position to take advantage of DRS down that main straight. Being, of course, one of a couple of the DRS zones around this here track. Mex with a heart-in-mouth moment over there through that slower sequence of corners. We have to catch the car. And I'll tell you what, as these three fight, Loveness, Sitchfig, and Mex, it's given Duke the license to gallop on ahead by a factor of 1.9, soon to be 2 seconds. Yep, and there it is. It's 2 seconds, folks. Yellow flag behind the action here, which has quickly been cleared. And yeah, Billy Hendricks, one of the biggest losers of this early part of this race, sadly having already had to come into the pits. Billy Hendricks languishing now down at the back of the pack. P17 for them. So yeah, Mex trying to fight it out versus a stage figure of speech. Work to do. These three running in formation. Loveness trying to keep these two feisty competitors at bay. Beautiful overhead helicopter shot we get, which gives us a fantastic vantage point of just how treacherous this track can be. A couple of unforced errors already causing a couple of drivers to go careening off the track and effectively costing them possibly beautiful race results. We'll see just how well Zotal can fight back after that huge mistake that we saw a little bit earlier on. Just 4 laps, E-laps, lots of racing still to go. Mex hugging the edges of the pit lane there, trying to carry as much speed as possible. Loveness weaving, bobbing to the left and to the right, trying to break the toe. That stage figure of speech is using to hang on to their coattails. Meanwhile, it is Debo Crocodile on the inside of Kaboza in towards turn number 1. Those hard tires are starting to sing now as far as Debo Crocodile is concerned. But on the exit, Kaboza almost going into the back of the Red Bull there, but manages to keep it intact, keep it going. Yellow flags aplenty on that run down to turn number 1, but has since been cleared. Kaboza with work to do, having now been pipped by Debo Crocodile for that P6 spot. Work to do for the drivers, effectively sister teams of one another. Debo Crocodile now looking to shake the V-carb off their tail. Kaboza, being Kaboza, will not make life easy for Debo. We have 30 laps of racing to go here, folks. And sadly, drivers have had to come in earlier for various reasons. Billy Hendricks had to compound that early pit stop with a 3-second time penalty, track limit infringements, sadly. So at this point, Billy Hendricks will really be hoping for a dramatic intervention of a possible safety car. Kaboza has done well enough in this lap to stay within touching distance of Debo Crocodile, and Kaboza returns the favor, or can he get this move done? Debo hangs it around the outside, they make a little bit of contact, do the Red Bull and the V-carb. Debo Crocodile comes off second best, will have to fight back again from the position of P7. Work to do for Debo. Oh, Mex has got a 3-second time penalty all the way at the sharp end of the grid. Mex was second at some point, now down to P4. We'll catch up with them in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, down to P13, it's Marshy versus Manray. M&M fighting for P12 effectively. The 86er has gouged ahead as Marshy had a heart-in-mouth moment, having to hack at the steering wheel so as to catch what could have been a terminal spin. The virtual safety car has been called. But the answer is, well, the question is, why? Virtual safety car, an opportunity to come into the pits if you're so inclined after just the 6 laps. Duke has called it. Duke has come into the pits early on here, folks. Duke is into the pits, 5-lap old mediums. Loveness keeps track position and goes passing straight along. Duke fits a set of hard tires, but where will Duke come out? Mex also opts to keep track position. Caboza, can they pass Duke? The answer is yes. Debo Crocodile says ditto. I will also come out ahead of the former race leader. Debo has 6-lap-old hard tires, currently P4. Duke comes out between Debo and Mfundo, who had yet to come into the pits. Zotal is now 7th under this virtual safety car. The 86er is 8th. How about that? Having started at the back of the pack on those mediums. Yeah, not exactly expected to go as long as, of course, some of the hard tire runners. Such figure of speech, opting now to come into the pits. Oh no, Marshy was speeding under the safety car. They will have to serve a drive-through penalty. Stewards have, the race director has determined that the virtual safety car can end, and it looks like Man Ray had already lost a front right-wing end plate. If you look closely on the right of that Alpine wing, yeah, it's gone. Man Ray with a moment that happened off camera, compromising their downforce on this track, which is unforgiving if you do not have all of your wing components. Tindo currently running a P11. Thiago, having just come into the pits, is 12th, and Crowley is 13th. Donovan Laka, also with a fresh set of hard tires under the virtual safety car, currently 14th. Marshy is 15th, has to serve the drive-through penalty. Billy Hendricks is all the way down to P16. Sensei is 17th. Mfundo, it seems, has opted to now come into the pits. Meanwhile, at the sharp end of the grid, kicking up a little bit of smoke with a light lockup, is Mex hunting down Loveness for the lead of this race. Loveness now trying to gallop on ahead and leave the likes of Duke in the dust. Loveness still has to pit, as does Mex and Caboza. Would you look at that? Those pit stops promoting the superstar V-Carb driver all the way up to P3. But as I say that, of course, Debo, being Debo, is not going to make Caboza's life easy. Debo brakes after the 50-meter marker, but Caboza very comfortable through the chicane. Clean exit. Caboza creates a little bit of breathing room between themselves and the chasing Debo Crocodile, who sees that gap stretch now to about 7.5 tenths of a second. Can Debo keep it going and keep on applying the pressure? Can Debo huff and puff and blow Caboza away and scoop him off those initial podium places? A lot of racing still to go, of course. All of the top 4 contenders still need to come into the pit. But as we say that, Duke has joined the fray to pile on the pressure on the back of Debo Crocodile, distant cousin of Debo Alligator. Duke is close enough to go on the inside of Debo Crocodile. Now into turn 1. Who will be braver on the brakes? Oh, they're pretty much neck and neck through turn number 1. But Duke has the inside line. Does Duke have the speed on the exit? Debo Crocodile is trying to fight it, but Debo could not hang on to P3. I beg your pardon, to P4, and Duke is now sandwiched between Debo Crocodile and Caboza, who has, of course, 8-lap-old medium tires. At this point, they'll still be in decent nick. They are mediums, of course. But Duke, whose hard tires will pretty much at this point have come into decent range as far as their temperature and grip level is concerned. Duke is going to be looking to make light work of Caboza. But look at that. Caboza putting on a fight is keeping Duke at bay here. And remember, Duke essentially is trying to get back to the front as quick as he possibly can. But Caboza is slowing his progress. Look at that gap between Caboza and Mex, 9.6, 9.7 seconds. So Duke is really being frustrated here behind the V car, and he saved up so much battery power as that yellow bar indicates at the bottom of the steering wheel. Side by side they go in the run towards turn number 1, but of course Caboza will not be able to fight it. Duke on the inside is well and truly through. Caboza is hanging in out on what would be the outside of this left-hander, but Caboza very close, but not quite close enough to effect an overtake here through the sequence of corners. But these three feisty contenders are making putting on an absolute show here as Duke slowly tries to chip away at that 9-second gap between themselves and Mex, who was all the way up at the sharp end. This is the battle for the race lead, Mex versus Loveness. Mex with that time penalty, now 7/10 behind Loveness, as Duke keeps on chipping away at that gap. Duke is, of course, now 8.5 seconds and counting downwards, trying to catch up to the back of Mex. Meanwhile, down the low midfield, Thiago has fresher tires than Tindo. Just made a little bit of contact with the back of the Alpine. Did Thiago trying to overtake the Alpine, trying not to get stuck behind what he might be seeing as a slow-moving driver, but Tindo will not make life easy for the McLaren superstar. Defend for their life on that narrow circuit, will Tindo. Thiago almost making acquaintance with the rear of that Alpine once again. Hangs on the outside, but it's too ambitious. He banged wheels with Tindo and sent himself kind of careening off the line. Thankfully did not lose it or send it into the wall. Tindo not making life easy for Thiago, who will now look to get it done. Opts for the outside line in the run towards turn number 1. Will it be enough? The answer is yes. And Tindo has to contend with a P11 spot as things currently stand. Meanwhile, down to P14, it's Billy Hendricks on the inside of Nquali, who tries to fight it, but it's close with no cigar. Nquali relegated down to P14 in this grid. But it looks like Nquali is fighting back here as best as they possibly can. Work to do for Nquali, currently running in P14. Caboza Debo has been one of the more entertaining close run battles pretty much through this entire race. These two fierce competitors running very, very close on track, as is the case in the championship. Debo Crocodile has 86 championship points. Caboza has 77. Duke has set the fastest lap of this race, as you just saw flashing your screen a couple of seconds ago. Duke making very, very good progress, chipping away at this gap between themselves and the top two drivers, who you could see in the very wide angle shot that he got. But from Duke's vantage point, he will just be hoping to chip away at this gap and eventually see the back of Loveness and really get him in his sights. All he's seeing right now, yep, there they are. They're past the chicane. But all that Debo was seeing are those plumes of smoke left behind by that Aston Martin, really kicking up some tire smoke in the wake of Moteo Mekwa, who has claimed the lead of this race. Remember, neither Mex nor Loveness have pitted with 12 laps gone. So at this particular point, as we come closer towards lap 15, that is around about the time that we do expect these top two drivers, Mex and Loveness, to come into the pit. So perhaps they're going for a gamble here and hoping for another incident, bringing out a safety car. It's a huge gamble, considering we've seen some lost wings, but nothing in the way of a terminal incident, resulting in a driver failing, of course, to finish this race. What's up with Mfundo and Nquali? Where are they is the question. The answer to that is on the verge of concluding the third and final sector of this track. Long left-hander into the final loop around the right-hander, that being the final corner of this lap. Mfundo is going to look to make light work of Nquali. He's taking the inside line, and there goes the Aston Martin towards turn number 1. And Nquali now down in P15. Back to the sharp end we go. Loveness, what a season they've had. Of course, Loveness has had a couple of trips to the podium. Best result of the season for Loveness was that race win back in Brazil. But Loveness has been on the podium in Saudi Arabia in the season opener, and again in the third race at Imola. So Loveness has looked absolutely sensational. And as I say that, what was a 9-second gap not long after Duke came out of the pits has been slashed down to about a second. And Duke is on the verge of being within a second of Loveness, and therefore within contention of being able to take advantage of DRS when they come back towards the main straight. Very comfortable is Duke through the circuit. Pretty much through all the circuits, it must be said. Has been a constant feature, has Duke, at the sharp end of all the races. Finding himself in the lead. Oh, this would be audacious, I'll tell you, on such a narrow track. Really pushing the Aston Martin along is Duke at this particular point in time. Here they come now towards the main straight. Look at that yellow bar on the bottom of Duke's steering wheel. Has saved up his battery power for this sort of moment. Now on the inside of the Aston Martin, through goes Duke. How much will Loveness fight it? Well, try as he might, it will not be enough. Now, Duke will have DRS in this battle against their main contender for the championship, that being Mex. Duke opens up that rear wing for that DRS, of course, and Fensei, speeding in the pit lane, has caught another penalty, but Fensei calling it quits, retiring in the pit lane. Will take no further part in this showcase. It is the battle for the race lead that we're watching in this 15th lap of the race. Duke versus Mex. Moteo Mekwa, the championship protagonist, the championship leader, versus the would-be challenger for the crown, for the throne, for the title of BrakeAway Racing League All-Star Champion. It is Duke, now within 0.3 of a second to Moteo Mekwa, huffing, puffing, applying the pressure, applying all of the duress towards the back of that V-carb in the hands of Mex, who is no slouch, of course, but finally relenting does Mex. He did his best to slow Duke down, to slow their progress, and knowing, of course, that Mex himself will have a tire advantage between now and the end of this race. Now, Duke knows what he has to do. With Mex and Loveness having just dove into the pits, Duke has to stretch the legs of that McLaren and create as much of a buffer as he possibly can. We'll get a sense of just how far Mex and Loveness have to go to bridge that gap to the race leader when they eventually come out. Debo Crocodile started this race on this set of hard tires, finds himself about 10 seconds behind the race leader now, who had already pitted for their fresher hards. Zotal, also on the tires that he started this race with, finds himself in P3. Six figure of speech, huffing and puffing, hunting down the Haas. That is Zotal. And Mex has come out of the pits 21 seconds behind the race leader. Mex was P2, but that pit stop will, of course, have a say in the sense that Debo, Zotal, and Capoza still have to come into the pits. Duke on the first push lap in clean air sets the fastest lap, 1 minute 17.096. Beautifully done by Duke. And Mex is maintaining that gap of about 21 seconds to the race leader. Capoza finally relents, comes into the pits off those set of medium tires. Meanwhile, six figure of speech on the outside of Zotal into turn number one. Zotal fights, huffs and puffs, and hangs it, trying to keep the Ferrari at bay. Manages to do so down in this second DRS little stretch into the lower left-hand corner. Zotal is doing very, very well to keep the Ferrari frustrated as much as they possibly can. Capoza and the 86er are currently in for their pit stop. And around this track, the pit stop time loss is about 20 seconds. You lose about 20 seconds coming into the pit. And that pretty much makes sense if you look at how far back Mex is from the race-leading Duke. 17 laps gone. Can Mex trim that gap? Well, the answer seems to be yes, because Mex has found about a second. He was 21 seconds behind. Now is 20.7 seconds behind the race leader. Lot of laps, a lot of racing still to go. And we know Duke's tires will be deteriorating at a rate which definitely compromises their grip levels relative to Mex. A tire offset of about 10 laps is nothing to be scoffed at, especially if you're talking about a contender as experienced as the likes of Moteo Mekwa. Loveness could be on for a sensational day here. By the time the likes of Debo and Zotal have gotten out of the way and finally come into the pits. Long way to go here, folks. Loveness in car number 99, doing the best that they possibly can to apply that pressure. As is Sage Figure of Speech versus Zotal, whose red light is flashing. That is Zotal harvesting a little bit of energy there, as former champion Titus says, you know what? Duke's pace on those hard tires remind me of my time. Titus, of course, a former champion of the top tier of BrakeAway Racing League, one of the founding members of the BrakeAway Racing League stable, whose pace, whose class was demonstrated over many, many seasons. And quality racks up a time penalty. Zotal doing their best to keep the Ferrari at bay down the main straight. Sage Figure of Speech is tired of this. He wants to get this over and done with. Sage Fig gets it done down into turn number 1. Outbreaks himself a little bit. Zotal hangs it on the outside. It's a 4-car fight. Sage Figure of Speech makes contact and sends it straight into the wall. It was a fight for the podium, but now Sage Figure of Speech has lost that front right wing end plate and has absolutely been totaled as far as the front wing is concerned. Sage Fig is still running, thankfully for them, but that huge moment costing them dearly. Mex has caught up to the back of Zotal now, as has Loveness. It's a 3-way fight now, ostensibly for the podium spot. Thibaut Crocodile still has to come into the pits, as does Zotal, who at this point of the race is slowing down all of these contenders. Remember, Mex is trying to breach that gap and catch up to Duke, but Mex is being slowed down to a huge degree here, hunting down Zotal, trying to hang on to the coattails there. Couple of yellow flags being kicked up by a few incidents off camera. We're paying attention to this battle at the sharp end of the grid. Devil Crocodile finally relents and comes into the pit. Zotal says, no, I'll keep it out on track. Perhaps Zotal gambling for a safety car. Mex has had enough. Mex is side by side with Zotal. Mex is ahead of Zotal now as they come in towards turn number 1. And Mex has gone through. Loveness is now going to look to follow suit, but he's not quite close enough. Look at how much of a fight Zotal is putting up on those 18, say 19 levels hard tires off. Looks like Loveness almost went smashing it to the back of the half, but managed to keep that car on line, in control. A huge heart and mouth moment there. And I'll tell you what, Mex has lost time. Now 22 seconds behind the race leader. And could that be that? Is that the end of Mex's prospects of a possible race win here? Was it even possible? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Remember, that gap was inching down towards the lower 20 seconds. But Mex, with these huge fights that he's had, has now found himself having lost more than a second in that fight. And Zotal pretty much opened the door there for Loveness to go through. Billy Hendricks retired from this session. It seems like Billy retired in the pits, not to bringing out a safety car out on track. But there we have it. Billy Hendricks, the second retiree, having not had the greatest of showings out here at the Hugaroring. Billy Hendricks, one of the most consistent performance of this season. Meanwhile, down in P8, it's Capoza versus Manray, the two former Tier 1 contenders. Capoza, inside line, down towards turn number 1. DRS, easy as you like. Those much fresher hard tires coming into play as Capoza now tries to hunt down Devo Crocodile for that P6 spot. 14 lap old hard tires for each of Tiago and Duke, who essentially pitted when that virtual safety car was out all those laps ago. But it seems that Duke on those aging hards is doing a sensational job out front. Once again, lonely race for this man who has been unchallenged, unbowed, unbent, unbroken, like House Martell in a Game of Thrones. I'll tell you what, he is playing a sensational game of domination of his own over here. So Duke in a sensational position, currently running P11, trying to keep Mex at bay. Mex is P2, has Loveness for company, as has been the case for pretty much most of this race. Zotal finally called it, comes into the pit at this circuit where you lose about 20 seconds with each pit stop. So yeah, Zotal will definitely be overtaken by the likes of Loveness. Zotal in lap 22 fits a set of medium compound tires. Fresh set for Zotal. Let's see whether or not they can make some steady progress through this field. Comes out P9 behind Donovan Laka, ahead of Mfundo. Work to do for Zotal. Mfundo is 10th, the 86er, 5 lap old hards, currently running in P11. So just a one position will give the 86er a little bit of a solace of finishing within the points. But it's going to be easier said than done. Look at that front wing, the front right end plate gone. From an incident that the 86er was involved in. Perhaps one of the early yellow flags that we saw earlier was caused by that wing loss. Perhaps the 86er went into the wall, or perhaps had a moment of contact between one of their competitors. Work to do for the veteran 86er, Galwalitsan Kugawefi, a superb talent. Has not had much time in the simulator this season, which is why you see him more often than not this season languishing towards the lower midfield. But on any given day, when he is in good nick, in good form, and in a position to putting those laps in the simulator, the 86er is definitely no slouch at all. Devo Crocodile has just overtaken Tiago, meanwhile. That happened slightly off camera. Meanwhile, Donovan Laka versus Zotal. Oh, that was so close, but Donovan Laka not quite close enough to get it done. Much older tires for Donovan Laka. Zotal is trying to pick their way through the field. Zotal now sandwiched between Donovan Laka and the veteran Manray, who did not come into the pits. Manray is on tires which are soon to be 23 laps old if he crosses the line, having not come into the pits. And now it's Zotal's turn to be frustrated. It's a sense of karma, I beg your pardon, for Zotal, who himself, of course, was keeping a lot of some of the faster moving drivers at bay earlier on. Now it's Zotal's turn to be frustrated behind a driver whose tires are completely depleted at this point. Manray will not make life easy for Zotal. Of course, that being said, this is a narrow circuit. Zotal was going to have to fight for his life to be able to effect an overtake. It was going to take something very audacious as these three contenders now come through the penultimate corner. Manray calls it. Manray dives into the pit, leaving Zotal free to go up towards P7. Donovan Laka on those ancient tires, 17 laps old now, has a lot of work to do. Mfundo also coming into the pits. The 86ers 6-lap-old hards will take advantage of a couple of positions and find themselves up into the points. P9 for the 86er, Gallo Latsang. But they will have to be very careful as some of those drivers will have the pace and the grip after coming out of the pits. We have about 10 laps of racing to go here, folks. If you've just joined us, thank you for choosing BrakeAway Racing League. Like the stream, subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. Let's catch back up with the sharp end of this grid. It does not look like Mex or Loveness will have quite enough to catch up to Duke. I suppose their saving grace would be a safety car at this point, considering A, the tire offset, and B, the saving grace of being bunched up behind one another. Loveness looked to have taken a bit of a moment there. Well, with a pit stop time loss of 20 seconds, Duke has been content to come in for another pit stop and fit a set of medium tires. So Duke turns this into a two-stop race and seemingly had enough time in the bag to come out ahead of Mex. Lap 1 crossfires are not it, says Billy Hendricks, who sadly had to retire from this race. We do commiserate with Billy Hendricks, who could have been really set for a decent day out here at the Hugaroring. But sadly, lap 1 incidents effectively compromising their race. What a race it has been from Duke. Definitely Duke. Duke Tsakar, the man from Abuja, Nigeria, who has been nothing short of imperious, dominant in some of the races that he has managed to gain a control over. Now galloping out ahead of Mex, 1.5 seconds ahead. And Duke now finds himself on the verge of lapping Tindo, who's running all the way down to P14. Prime RB21 Duke pace, says Billy Hendricks in the comment section. I'll tell you what, it is nothing short of that. Within the space of a single lap, he just gallops and builds a gap of about 2 seconds. Tindo languishing down in P14. Tindo, retiring from this race. The writing is on the wall. Tindo having just been lapped by each of Duke, and it would have been, of course, Loveness and Moteo Mekwa, who now finds himself in P3. Debo Crocodile a further 16 seconds behind the top three, or rather, I beg your pardon, 16 seconds behind Moteo Mekwa, aka Mex. And on that fresh set of medium tires, Duke sets the fastest time we have seen here today in this race, 1:16.646. Comfortable, controlled, composed performance here from Duke, who has been in a class of his own since the lights went out. It's been a fierce battle between Loveness and Mex, pretty much evenly matched for pace. Was not a lot between them in qualifying. And it seems that even as far as race pace is concerned, they have definitely been a step above the rest of the pack, of course, with the exception of Duke. But they've really managed to keep each other honest here as Duke lights up the timesheets again, 1:15.991 for the McLaren Superstar, who is now 6.5 seconds ahead of this duo. Mex on the inside. Mex trying to be braver on the brakes relative to Loveness, and Mex gets that move done. Now up to P2, but sadly, a time penalty will cost them dearly. Oh, Zotal was on the verge of overtaking Thiago on track, but Thiago dives back into the pits to swap those hard tires for a set of mediums. So similar strategy, similar game, a similar approach to their race-leading teammate. Well, in the end, Titus Zotal did not need to fight it. He was languishing behind Thiago, who's now trying to stay ahead of the 86er. Oh, but look at that. Broken wingless wonder. 86er hangs it on the outside and gives Thiago a run for their money. How about that? With about 6 laps of racing to go, the 86er has found a way to make their way around the Hugaroring in a more than competent manner. I'll tell you what. Doing very well is the 86er, now trying to keep Thiago at bay. Billy Hendrick says Thiago uses AI setups. It's very difficult to pass Thiago on the straights of races. Titus laments the time that Zotal lost. Oh, Thiago almost compromising their own wing into the back of the 86er there. Yeah, trying to hang on to the coattails of that Mercedes so as to take advantage down this main straight. Here we go. It is Thiago on the inside of the 86er. Thiago past the 86er in towards turn number 1. 86er, 13 lap old hards. Always going to be a difficult prospect versus the fresh mediums that Thiago had just put on. Meanwhile, Caboza versus Debo Crocodile. Another pair of drivers which have been evenly matched as far as pace is concerned, pretty much since the start of this race. Neither has managed to shake off the other. Caboza on the inside. Caboza kicks up some plumes of smoke. Debo hangs it on the outside. Debo manages to hang on, or does he? No. Has to relent and tuck into Caboza's slipstream. Debo down to P5. Caboza in that 4th spot, about 13, soon to be 14 seconds behind the P3 running Loveness. Speaking of which, that 5-second gap between Loveness and Mex suggests a huge moment that happened off camera, which resulted in Loveness losing all of that ground, all of that time. What might have happened? Loveness was very, very close, was well within half a second of Mex for most of this showcase, and now with about 3 or so laps to go, has fallen behind by a factor of about 5.5 seconds. Work to do. Word from Mex here, folks, was about 21 seconds behind. Managed to slowly start to chip away at that gap. But as soon as Duke came in for that pit stop, yeah, it pretty much obliterated Max's prospects because that tire offset, yeah, especially considering that Duke, the race leader, is on a compounded tire, which is one step softer and thus grippier than Max. Yeah, it was always going to be a tough prospect. Once again, a cool, composed, controlled performance from Duke, who in many races this season has had very little in the way of challenges. Don Rabico was in the comments section earlier on, pretty much saying, well, when the cat is away, the mice come out to play. That's what Don Rabico was intimating, and indicating that, well, once this new game is out, which is the case in these coming days, well, your days are numbered. That was the subtext to Don Rabico's message to this entire grid. Beautifully done and controlled race from definitely Duke. And Fundo, meanwhile, is on the coattails of six-figure speech. And Fundo on the inside of Sage Figure of Speech manages by the skin of his teeth to tiptoe past the Ferrari up towards P11. Sage Fig has no time penalties to contend with, may yet be in a great position, possibly here, to even leapfrog Manray. If these two can get closer, and Fundo took a lot of curb there, and Fundo was almost drifting on a certain portion of the circuit. Sage Figure of Speech applying the pressure in this, the penultimate lap. And he's got his work to do. Meanwhile, Thiago has just overtaken Donathan Laka in the run towards turn number 1. As you can see, Donathan Laka with the much older tires. 27 laps Donathan Laka has taken these hard tires versus the 86ers 17 laps. And of course, Thiago's much fresher, much better 5-lap old medium compound tires. The protagonist at the sharp end of the grid, Duke Takar, has been nothing short of imperious. Now has begun the 35th and final lap of this race. And what a showcase, what a showpiece event it has been. Beautifully done here by Duke, folks. 35 laps of pure class, pure composure, pure dominance, it must be said. He is on the verge of bringing it home here. Having lapped a couple of these contenders, it has been nothing short of composed and controlled from the McLaren superstar, who has one thing in their sights, and that is catching up to, overtaking Max in the championship table, and across the line comes Duke to win here at the Hugaroring. Sensationally done by the McLaren superstar by a factor of about 14.5 seconds. Max will bring it home in P2, and had enough of a gap so as not to be penalized, or not to have that gap count. Loveness comes home for that P3 spot. So those are your podium finishers here tonight. Caboza will bring it home in P4. But will those penalties be telling? It's a 3-second penalty. Zotal did not seem to be close enough, but perhaps considering the incidents that they suffered, they might just be happy with P5 at the end. Debo Crocodile will bring it home in P6. Thiago Maestro comes across the line, around the final corner to finish in 7th. Donathan Laka took those tires to the brink. P8 for them. Man Ray is seemingly finding it out with one of these ghosts here. Is it the ghost of Sage Fig? No, it's not the ghost of Sage Fig. Yeah, it seems that Man Ray might have been ghosted himself. Sage Fig is going to bring it home for P9, and Fundo takes the 10th spot and the last of the points. Man Ray will finish 11th, and the 86er now comes across the line for P12. Marcy 13th, and Quali is 14th. What a race that was. 86er in that P12 spot. It is Duke Mex in the pound seat on the podium. Loveness, beautifully done by them. Well, what a sensational showcase that was. Thank you for having joined us. Congratulations to our 3 podium finishers. Folks, we will see you at the next race, which should be... this was Hungary, of course. Next up, we have got Belgium. We're out in Spa, as Mfundo says, Duke domination. And Sir Lancelot enjoys the way that showcase race finished. Thank you very much, folks. We will see you next time out in Belgium. Thank you, and good night. Some words of congratulations coming in for Duke. There you have it, folks. 1:15.991, fastest time of the day. Look at that margin as well. Wins, of course, by a factor of 17 seconds, accounting for Mex's 3-second time penalty. It was 14th on the track, but beautifully done. Full haul of points for Duke. Mex makes sure that he does not lose too much ground so as to stay in firm control and command of the championship standings. Thank you very much, folks. We will catch you next time. Thank you and good night.